ready to lead like you've been doing it for years? The truth is, leadership is hard, but waiting to feel ready is harder. This is the Instant Leader podcast with Andy Lee, bringing you real stories and proven principles to lead with more confidence today.
Welcome to the Instant Leader podcast. In this episode, I'm joined by Aglaia Economou for a thoughtful, honest conversation about leadership confidence and learning to trust yourself when certainty doesn't exist. Aglaia shares her journey through responsibility, self-doubt, and growth, and we explore what it means to lead with integrity rather than ego. This episode is about identity, courage, and showing up without pretending to be finished or fearless. If you've ever felt the pressure to have it all figured out, this conversation will meet you right where you are. So let's get into it. Aglaia, welcome to the Instant Leader podcast. It's great to have you here. For the benefit of the guests, the audience listening, just give a little bit of a rundown as to your background right now and what you do for work.
Okay, no, thank you. Thanks very much, Andy. So I'm the HR Learning Development and Change Manager. I work for Hertfordshire County Council, local government at the moment. My role is to kind of oversee the L&D strategy over the organization. We're about 8,000 plus members, staff members. So I kind of look after them in terms of the soft skills, in terms of management, leadership, in terms of all of those type of skills. A lot of the apprenticeship levies under my remit, anything to kind of help and develop staff, coaching, all the platforms as such to kind of help and develop them.
Okay, that's quite a broad role, right? And you're working with a lot of people across a lot of different levels. So I'd love to go a little bit further back, or I say a little, I mean, that depends on where we start. How did you come to be where you are right now? And what was your kind of trajectory?
Oh my goodness, how far back do you want to go? So originally from South Africa. I mean, I started in I worked for a financial company. I started as a sales rep, actually. My background is my parents had a supermarket, and I used to serve customers from a very young age. So I remember even from the age of 7. So I worked with people from a very young age. I loved working with people, and selling was in my, I would sell as such. And I started off with my first full-time job was with a financial company. And I suppose because being passionate about people, I did pretty well in my first year, because at that stage, it was just on commission. We would just, if you would sell a financial package, you would get paid, you'd get commission. So I did pretty well in my first year. And they asked me, I remember, managers would come back and say, "Oh, can you come talk to the new reps that are coming into the business?" And I said, "Oh yeah, not a problem. I'd love to." And I think, and that's where I got my training and learning bug from. I loved supporting and developing them, sharing my knowledge. And then an opening came about in the learning and development. And I thought, you know what, why not? So I joined the learning and development team within the financial company. But what I did keep, though, because this is something I like to practice what I preach. I asked my manager then, and I said to him, "Listen, I'd like to continue selling," because back then we would sell in the evenings. It was because people would be at home. You'd go visit, you'd do home visits at home where you'd go see them. So I said to them, I'll join the L&D team, condition that I continue selling at night. So that I could kind of just, still see what's been happening, be aware of all the changes, and then kind of practice what I preach. So that what I learned and did in the evening, I would apply, during the day. And I've been in, learning and development since then.
Wow.
Always wanted, so that's the passion, is developing and supporting people.
Wow. So the selling bit, you said you started selling when you were working for your father's business at the age of 7. That's
Yeah,
quite young. I mean, you're
absolutely.
still learning a lot of things in school. Um,
Absolutely, Andy.
so
Yeah.
tell me about that. I mean, it sounds like that was quite a pivotal moment for you. Like you
Oh
remember that
gosh.
quite clearly. It sounds like.
Yeah. Absolutely. I do remember standing behind the counter, serving customers, and looking up and kind of, because they're all taller than me, can I, may I help you? And sometimes I'd get the people looking down at me and go, nah, it's all right. I'll wait for your dad to come along. And I used to get so cheesed off because, I knew my stuff. I knew how to handle that cash register. In those days, it was the old cash register where it didn't show you how much change you had to give. You would just,
Right.
type in the amount and and then work out in your head. So my
Yeah.
maths was pretty good. And I do remember my dad seeing what had just happened and bringing along an empty cold drink crate. In those days, it was the wooden crates, a Coke crate, and turning it around and says, yeah, stand on this. And that moment of me standing on this crate and kind of looking a bit taller and feeling more empowered. I can do this. So that was, I mean, he gave me, and again, you see the opportunity, he gave me the means to continue. I didn't just say, oh, that's it. Oh, I'm not going to do this anymore. I persevered and just continued. So, and yes, like I said, maths was my, nobody could, trick me up on any of the maths. I knew exactly,
A human calculator.
how to calculate. And I think I've got a mental thing now with all my timetables. It's like mentally ingrained.
I mean, that's a great skill. I think a lot of people don't have that nowadays because they don't need to, right? It's just so easy to find that answer when your little computer in your pocket,
That's it.
or using the internet. So tell me, what did it mean for you? I know you use the term selling right now, but because a lot of people, there's a stigma attached to that word, in some groups and some categories, like selling. It's it can be pushy, it can be
Mm,
forcing or
yeah.
manipulating. And what did it mean for you, and how did that help develop your own leadership?
Yeah. I think the word authentic comes across to me, being authentic, being real, um, and listening. I think for me, it was also about listening and asking those right questions because, yes, I mean, having that sales background, when I come across somebody who's a salesperson, automatically I go, yeah, you're using that one. You're saying it this way, but are you really being real? And I think for me, that was being real. I mean, like I said, I would sell packages as insurance packages. So they weren't cheap, they weren't cheap. But again, it was about selling the benefits. If they understood why, and that was a key thing for me as well. If they understood why they were purchasing it, I had a deal. And then they would know that, yeah, this is the real thing.
Yeah.
So it's all about using those. I know it just being authentic, being and listening.
Yeah.
Um,
And when you say listening, I think you're talking about really understanding their needs, where they're
yes,
at, what problems they have that need to be solved, and then
that's
seeing whether what you have to offer
absolutely
can solve
would
that.
suit. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, there were times. Don't get me wrong. Which I knew that I had to give it up. I would have to say, oh, I don't think this is the right, or either the right time for you, or my problem, or my would be the solution. Would my product would be the right solution? So and walk away.
Yeah.
Yes, I would be gutted because I knew there goes my commission. But it was something I had to, again, I suppose, just being true to myself, knowing that because they could easily turn around after a month and cancel it. And then what would happen? You would lose your commission. They would take because they would pay the commission up front, a year's commission up front.
Right.
And then should they cancel it, they would ask for that full year's commission back.
So claw back. Yeah.
Yeah. You had to, I couldn't afford not to do, a proper job, because in the end, I would lose out as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And how did you deal with rejection, assuming that happened for you?
Yeah, it did, Andy. It was tough. It was tough, especially, like I said, I was in my early 20s, after my studies, thinking, you know everything, and you would go in and wanting to sell, and people would turn around. And I think it took me my manager, I had a brilliant manager at that time, who always would say, go back to basics. And I've taken that statement, ethos, right up until my career right now. Who always would say, these products are not for everyone. And hence why coming back to listening to their needs, listening to what they want. And yes, if it is, good. But if not, walk away with your head held high that you've tried everything.
Yeah.
Of course I was gutted, because like I said, it's, no commission. But I think over the time, I learned that that wasn't always the right, not to be pushy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's that, there's that really important priority of putting the other person's needs first.
Yeah.
And so that might lead to you not even making an offer, or you just saying, hey, I don't think this is right for you. So you're just kind of withdrawing because you're trying to do right by them. And then there are other situations where you absolutely know this is what they should have and what they should get, but it doesn't work out.
Yeah.
What do you do with those situations? Is that a learning kind of lesson for you then? Like, what do you take from those?
Yeah. Absolutely. I do remember. It's always, I think reflection for me is key. Whatever I do, I always have either a debrief session or a time to reflect on what went right, what didn't work, what could I do differently. So yes, there were times when, I'd walk out not having done the deal, and, feeling all something, I could have said this, or I could have said that. And that was my learning point, is learning how to have those debriefs and reflective times. What could I have done differently? If I knew that, yes, I wouldn't give up. That's the only thing. If I knew that they could afford it, etc., I would leave for a time and go back, different angle, of course. But something I learned is, don't give up. Don't give up.
Yeah.
Got to persevere.
Yeah. And would you mind we'll deep dive into that a little bit more, like not giving up and going back and trying different angles. What type of things were you trying? Were you attempting? Was it different language? What kind of language? What were you coming back with to try and reignite that segment?
I think it was the language. I think the language was a big key part, because in South Africa we had two. At the time there it was English and Afrikaans. So a lot of the area I was predominantly Afrikaans speaking, and sometimes my Afrikaans wasn't as clear. But I think, again, it was about, when they did give me that opportunity, because of course I'd had to make another appointment, and when they did allow me to come back, it was about them understanding, the benefits to them. So it was the language and making sure they understood, come back to that why they needed this, and I came across a book. I can't remember the name of the book, but it was an American insurance broker who always would say, if he turn that benefit into a question. So if, for instance, if this would solve X, Y, and Z, would you be happy to do this? almost like those closing questions, having those closing questions ready, and then getting, that buy-in. And one thing I did learn is once you get the buy-in, take it and leave. Don't oversell, because you would then almost get them to think about it too many times and go, oh, you know what? No, maybe not. Just once you get it, say, right, let's sign and move to the next step, the next stage.
Interesting. Yeah. I love that. So what does overselling look like then?
Oh, just you just keep on selling the benefits. You just keep on selling, what this is going to do for you. And they've agreed that, yeah, this is the right thing. And then you just keep on, you don't know when to zip it. Yeah.
So show some restraint in that area.
yeah. And just take it and get on to the next, stage.
Great. So you've gone from that, becoming good at sales, learning all of the strategies in selling and selling successfully, to then basically being given the opportunity to teach others how to do it as well. So that itself is a transition, isn't it? That's when
absolutely
when you're promoted, or when you move to a role where you're training other people to do what you are really good at doing, that requires a whole set of new skills. What was that like for you? What did you learn?
It was. I mean, as you know, I immigrated from South Africa, and I went on to Greece. But things didn't work out for me in Greece, and I came across to England, working in England now. And because I knew I wanted to teach, and train and support people, I started off as just a lecturer at my local university, and then found roles in learning and development. But I suppose because I've always had that passion in people development, I always wanted to support, and it was quite easy for me. Although, again, I became a psychometric practitioner, and I got to understand a lot more about people's communication style. Because again, like I said, I thought I knew everything about working with people, but when I came across that model, I was like, oh, that's why they do what they do when they do it, or and I fully then got to grasp, that awareness, that self-awareness that I needed. So yeah, don't know what the question was again, Andy.
It was fine. I mean, it's fine. We can talk about you brought up the psychometric piece here, that, and then self-awareness. Those two keywords. So what areas of psychometric profiling did you study in, and did you become qualified in?
I became a qualified practitioner with the insights discovery model. So again, they're all very similar to a lot of the other psychometric models that are out there, but we just use colors. It uses colors. So it's still based on the same principles of the Swiss psychologist Carl Gustav Jung. But yeah, it was a lovely model to get to understand my own style, why I like to do what I like to do, and because it's so strong on perception, the model is based on perception. You get to understand how people perceive you. I do remember an incident with I had a support officer working with me, and at the time I used to do lots of reports, and I used to want to know the statistics. I used to want to get stats, and I used to kind of say to her, Emma, I need those, the figures for, and she would, at one stage, she'd kind of say to me, my gosh, Aglaia, you scare me. And I go, what? I go, yeah, you come across so, so kind of quite aggressively. And I'm thinking, oh, wow. And it was just because of my style that I'm very direct, so I needed to then made me aware that I needed to just adapt to the situation. And that's the key thing within the psychometric analysis, is adapting. It's not about changing who you are, because we are unique. We've got our own set of characteristics and personality. And that's something I always start off by saying in my sessions, but it's about adapting. And that, I think, is key as leaders, that we adapt, or we need to know when to adapt, to the situation. So I then needed, I mean, what I figured out from that was, whenever I spoke to Emma, I would kind of just slow down, change my tone, kind of, softer tone, like, Emma, when you have a minute, do you think you could send me those figures?
Yeah.
Not like, Emma, I need those figures now. So
Yeah.
it was just a whole different, and just that little bit change made her feel more, absolutely, Aglaia, no problem. When do you want it by, type of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's amazing.
So that, and what's funny about that is maybe that you thought you were being soft anyway, but from the feedback that you got from Emma, you realized you were being direct and blunt. So you had to almost change your understanding of how you were coming across, right? Because you thought you were being kind and friendly, but she took it quite aggressive and in your face. So on this, I had an experience where we use Slack with some of my clients, and so Slack is a messaging system. So you're just typing, and obviously a lot of you don't see tone of voice, you don't see the volume of how you're speaking, but it's just text. And I'm just texting, and I'm asking for something similar, like, hey, when's that report due? And I kind of do that because it's efficient for me. It's like, I don't do the, hey, how are you? Have you had your morning coffee yet? Just it's due. When's that? And then I got feedback like, oh, you're coming across as quite aggressive, quite direct, not very kind. And I'm thinking there, because that's just, it's the way that I communicate on Slack, because we have a job to do, and we're not having a coffee. We're just trying to get work done, working towards a common goal, right? And we're working remotely as well. So now the question there is, and maybe back to you, Aglaia, is, do I change? Does she change? Like shall I change and then add more words to a Slack message, just like you, adapt your tone to make it more effective for the other person to receive, versus letting them know that what they're like, making them a little bit more self-aware of how they're receiving certain things that might be distorted based on whatever experience that they've gone through, or their personality, or their psychometric profile. What's the balance there, do you think?
That's it, Andy. I think that's what it's a balance. It all depends on what is the objective. What's the key objective? So, I mean, again, based on, because you're right, it's also in your emails, the tone in your emails. People read it differently. Remember when I said it's perception? People's perception. You may think you're coming across as very friendly by just saying, hi, Aglaia, could you do this for me? I may read it in my gut and I go, gosh, could he just not ask how I'm doing? You know what I mean? So it all depends. If you are aware of their style, adapt. So in my emails now, I do start off by saying, hope you're well. It's just a habit now that I can just take that step back and not come across, in full light of what I want. But it's also about, I mean, if in teams, because we do this with teams as well, it's really good to understand each other's styles so that people can then, they get to understand, oh, that's why she said what she says when she says it. An example for myself is, I remember before I came across the psychometric analysis, I had a manager who, whenever I'd ask her something, she would always tell me, put it in writing. And I'd go, and to such a step that I actually thought, doesn't she trust that I know what I'm doing? Can she not just tell me yes or no? But because she wanted the details in writing so she could process it, she wasn't one to make decisions right there and then. She had to take her time, analyze it, make sure she had all the details before she'd say something. But yet in my mind, I was thinking, oh my gosh, she doesn't know. She doesn't trust me. She doesn't think I can do my job. My inner chatterbox was going around.
Yeah.
But until I got to understand, no, that's just her way. I knew then, okay, nothing personal, but it's just her way. So yeah, it all depends on if you do understand, if you know the person you're communicating to, adapt to their style. If they're aware, or get them to be aware of your style. I would also, again, my recommendation to first-time managers is have one-to-ones with everybody in your team and manage expectations. Kind of say to them, listen, guys, this is who I am. This is how I operate. How would you like me to, manage you? And that's when the collaboration starts happening. But they need to understand your perception too, because again, it's not about changing, as I said before, who you are. It's just about adapting to the situation.
Yeah. I love that. And I think that is so key, like the adaptability, the flexibility to adapt. I think the person with the most flexible behavioral system wins, because they are not tied to a specific way of being, of behaving, right? They're not rigid. And that's especially helpful in a large organization or for managers where you're dealing with different people. And so Absolutely. It sounds like, Aglaia, that what you do is you would get, as a manager, you get to know your team and you'd be conscious of, okay, with Emma, I'm going to put the hope you're well. With Steve, I don't need to do that because he thinks it's a waste of time.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's where, conflicts can arise within teams because they just don't understand, people's styles. Somebody who like Emma would like that. How are you? How was your weekend? To somebody who's, Stephen, just get down to it. I don't, no mumbo jumbo. Just tell me what I have to do. Conflict can arise between the two if they don't understand, this is just their styles.
Correct.
Yeah.
And that style, could end up being the underpinning culture of an organization, right? And so do you get to a point where, okay, someone decides the way that the teams are operating and communicating just isn't for me? I mean, how much do you continue to push? Because you're a coach and because you understand these things, you almost have the tools to be able to influence the other person and to show them, help them become more aware. How much would you go down that route, helping them become more aware of these things so they can become better at their work and stay in the company versus just deciding, I don't think, not for you.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, this is part of within our offer, our training offer that we offer within Hertfordshire County Council. I was actually the one who introduced insights into the organization. So, which I'm really, pleased about. So it's something we offer to teams. So when I work with business partners who come to me and say, Aglaia, there's a little bit of conflict or the team are not getting well or whatever. And, after initial having that consultation with the manager, I always kind of start off with, well, let's have an insights day. And we introduce insights, and we make it a very fun, on perception, base it on perception, because there's a card game and, people read these statements and they think, oh, this is you, this is definitely you. Or they receive statements and they go, oh, do you really think I like that? Oh, thank you, because it's written in positive language anyway. So we do offer this to the organization in team away days, because like you said, Andy, it's the awareness. They need to just, if you have that awareness, because at the end of the day, the objective of insights is to understand, have that awareness in order to connect. because at the end of the day, we want to communicate more effectively with people. So if you have that awareness and we kind of train them in terms of what you look out for, what do you look out for in their body language, in how they're talking and or how, they're asking questions, again, comes back to adapt your style to then, in order to connect. Yeah. So yes, it's part and parcel of our training offer that we offer to teams and as well as individuals. So we have individuals that we don't want to get it escalated to an employee relations case, before it gets escalated. Maybe it's about, having that conversation, just understanding. And I think that's what we lack is sometimes just have that conversation.
Yeah.
Before it gets escalated.
Yeah. So it sounds like that's very important work that you're doing, because you're preventing things going to tribunals or
yeah.
parties, and so you're reducing cost, improving the relations in between the teams. All of that is great. Why is that even a thing? Like
good question.
Where is it that we've lost how to figure out communicating well within our peers, colleagues, inter teams?
Good question. I think it's just life takes over, really. We're so busy. We're so busy with our work, we don't take that time to reflect, that step back. I remember a training course I attended many years back, and the guy was saying, the trainer as such was saying, you know what, I take an hour a day to think. And we go, what? An hour a day? Where do we have an hour? Maybe an hour a week, maybe. But so no. Try getting to the habit of taking an hour a day just to think, and reflect. So, and yeah, it's just taking that time. So I think everything's just rushed, just think of the holidays, like we were just saying about Christmas, New Year's, it was family, this, that, and then we come back to work and go, phew, okay, back to some normality because of the structure. But it's it's just the time, Andy.
Yeah. And so take the time out to reflect and to think. Think about what? Reflect on what?
Well, that's the thing. Think of, whether it's your team, whether it's the work that needs to be done, whatever is niggling, we'll always have things. I'm a firm believer of a to-do list, kind of write everything down. I'm still old paper format. Although my kids have tried to get me on all of these apps, it just doesn't work. There'll always be something that's, on your agenda, but it's whatever is happening for you at the time, I suppose.
Yeah. For me, I think about things that trigger you. That's potentially one thing. It's like what upset me, what caused me to have an emotional reaction, or maybe a disproportionate emotional reaction.
That's the key word. That's the word I was looking for. The trigger. Whatever's that's triggered in. There must be something. Yeah. If not anything, great. Read a book, listen to some music.
Yeah. But again, you were just highlighting the importance of almost changing pace and just taking that time out from the immediate.
That's it. Yeah.
So letting things sink in. Because I see, there are people who, and I've been through those loops where we go through the same experience again and again and again because we haven't learned the lesson from it yet. It's that case of where, for example, someone goes from job to job to job, and they, for whatever reason, it never seems to work out for them. But but eventually they have to figure out that the common denominator is themselves. Like it can't be every company out there is a bad one. Every boss is a bad one. Every work environment is a toxic one. There's something that you're bringing with you into each of those roles
That's it.
that might need uncovering, right? And
Absolutely.
and
Yeah.
that's where your psychometric kind of profiling
Analysis.
helps to put language around that.
Absolutely. I mean, and the nice thing is about the psychometric analysis, it's written in, you get your profile and it's written in black and white there in front of you, But again, not everybody can have one done, or they can afford it. And I mean, even with coaching, as coaches, we say unblock that potential in you.
Yeah.
You have the answers, but it's, you just, as coaches, we give you that platform where we ask those questions, and because sometimes it kind of could be uncomfortable, to kind of speak about anything, or just they don't want to go into that. But yeah, it's all within us. It's all within us, Andy. I'm a firm believer of positive affirmations as well. In my front of my room, I've got little positive little things that when I have a tough day, I too have a tough day. I kind of would look up and just kind of look at whichever one would apply to where I am. But one thing that I have there is that only you can motivate you, because like you said, it's within you. Everything is, you have the power to do anything and everything.
Yeah. It's good. So, moving on, let's assume that there are people listening to this that don't have the confidence, or they think they need more confidence before they can actually lead. What would you say to that? How would they tackle that?
So, I mean, I'm a firm believer in, if you have the opportunity to get a coach, get somebody to coach you, or if you've identified somebody in the organization that you would kind of look up to, approach them to be your mentor, that, because again, mentoring is slightly different to coaching. Mentoring is about them sharing their knowledge and experience with you, that you can go, oh, and then walk away from that, hopefully, that you could go, oh, I'm going to go try that, I'm going to go do something different. So yeah, I mean, again, I'm a firm believer in asking for help. Don't be scared to ask for help. But if you can be coached, whether it's an internal pool of coaches, a lot of the organizations have that nowadays, or a mentor if they don't have an internal pool of coaches. And believe you me, people like to be approached if they say, "Ooh, I like how you do X, Y, and Z. Could you show me? I really would like to do it like you do it." They like getting those positive strokes. There's more than likely they'll say yes, than refuse you.
Yeah.
So
there are no shortage of resources out there to help, right? To be coached, to be mentored, and all of that is with the aim of, what would you say, it's becoming more self-aware? How would you?
Yeah, self-aware, and more empowering, that, it's all in your hands. But that awareness, I think, is key. That awareness is key, that, we are all different. People operate all differently. You're not going to get the same person like you. But it's about, I think that awareness, that adaptability, adapting to the situation is going to be key, having that flexible to adapt. And sometimes not even saying, not being afraid to say, I don't know, but let me go find out. And but then do go find out and share that.
Sure. Yeah. Aglaia, what are the reasons are there for people not adapting? One is like they don't know how to, which we just talked about. would there be any other reasons why people would struggle to adapt?
Yeah, so I don't know. I suppose it's just, well, again, comes back. They just don't know. They haven't got that awareness of the different styles. Yeah, Andy, I mean, touch wood. I haven't come across anybody that, so it's a good one. I mean, why wouldn't they? Well, it's just, for me, it would be just, they don't know. They just don't know what they don't know. They're not aware. Somebody could say to them, but you're always coming across like this. And they go, so, could be the attitude,
Yeah. And
egos.
Yeah. That's a big one. Like this positioning that, well, you adapt to me. Like, this is the way that I do it. And I know that when I do it, I mean this. So if you're taking it the wrong way, that's on you.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've come across.
But that's, again, it just goes back to what I said earlier about, a new team, new person joining the team. Have that conversation of, listen, this is who I am. This is how I operate. Because again, if they don't know, they may take it the wrong way and go and gossip to other team members and say, oh my gosh, that, she comes across so blunt. She comes so direct, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So make yourself approachable.
That's it.
So that people will tell you.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it's, why are you in that position then? Why did you want to work with people then? If you just didn't want to work with people, there are other jobs where you can be on your own, but you opted to work with people. And, so you've got to, I mean, just sorry, that's just my ethos is, if you're working with people, you've got to learn how to work with people.
Sounds quite obvious when you put it like that, isn't it? But what about the term, and we discussed this in a pre kind of conversation, accidental managers, right? So individual contributors who are very, very good at what they do technically, good subject matter expertise, and then the natural progression is to be promoted to a manager because people above see that what you output is really good. They want to multiply that output. So here's a team, multiply that output.
Yeah.
So these people, maybe they didn't choose to work with other people.
Absolutely. That's it. And so two pieces with this is, firstly, is ask those, because they're subject matter experts. Absolutely. Is to get their confirmation or get their agreement, do they want to be a manager? Because I think that's something we don't do. We just say to them, here's a promotion. You're now promoting a team of 7, 8, 10 people. Off you go. And they just leave them. Yes, some of them may want it, but then they don't have the skills. So that's where that early intervention, that's that early management training on how to manage people needs to come into play. Andy, how to have that one-to-one conversation, how to check in with your, people, how to have those feedback sessions, how to give them constructive feedback, or have those difficult conversations. Those are the things I think we miss out with these accidental managers, and that, and hence why, that's something we kind of initiated over a year ago. Go back to basics, go back to how to manage those tasks. How do we manage those individuals? How do you manage the team? Because they're not taught. They know, like you said, they know their topic perfectly. The output is fantastic. But when it comes to, dealing with, Kay here, who's crying because she's daycare center just called in saying there's no more daycare center. She doesn't know what to do with her 3-year-old child. And you go, I don't know, it's about having that, though, that, and all of that empathy needs to come into play. That's something that, these accidental managers are not taught.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So it's the dealing with people aspect that they need to get trained on.
Yeah. And again, so that goes back, that's a program that you helped oversee, initiate, and you're implementing that where you are. And in your experience, it's not just something that's required maybe where you are working, like you see a lot of other organizations kind of missing this key piece of training as well.
Yeah, very much. I mean, within my network group, I do pick up a lot of where people say, we have a lot of accidental managers, and they don't know how to manage people, because we just assume because they know what they're doing, we assume that they know how to work or manage people, which is not always the case. I mean, don't get me wrong, there are some fantastic managers who become managers, but they're not all, not all there.
Yeah, that's so interesting, isn't it? That you think, well, it's very common for someone to get promoted to a manager from being a lone worker, and yet there's just a massive gap in resourcing and training and equipping those managers.
Absolutely, and what, we're not always in the office at every day now. This virtual managing is a whole new ball game altogether. And then again, we need to be careful not to want to micromanage, because that's the other thing, because we don't see them in the office, doing work, but you don't want to be checking in on them every hour. Oh, what have you done? Or where are you? Etc. So it's understanding all of those concepts, and trust comes into play again as well. You got to trust them that they're going to be doing a job, a good job.
Yeah. Aglaia, you mentioned back to basics training before. Are you able to share a little bit about what that entails?
I mean, when we looked at the back to basics in terms of what we initiated, it was things like how to hold that one-to-one. Well, part and parcel of what are your responsibilities of a manager. We would go through the key concepts of, part and parcel of your responsibilities is to have regular one-to-ones, conversations with your team, with members of your team. And within that one-to-one, the structure of checking in the well-being, how are they? How are they really? It was also about making sure, do they understand what is expected of them in terms of objectives? What are their objectives? Do they have objectives? That was one of the key things, because a lot of the times we would have feedback saying, "Oh, I'm just working," and then we'd go, "Well, what are you working towards?" Or or whatever. So clear objectives. Actually, going back to SMART objectives, making sure they have that, and there's a time in terms of that. And we've also also introduced a behavioral framework. The how. How do you do? How do you work? What behaviors do you demonstrate? Because part and parcel of our appraisal is that, yes, we look at objectives have been achieved, but behaviors have been demonstrated. So that's one of the major big things that we go into back to basics. And then, of course, also your development. That is something we've also introduced, is have that conversation as to, so where do you see yourself in 6 months, 1 year, 3 years? Or what is stopping you from doing stuff now? Any development, any training that you need in order to do your job. So those are those 3 key headings we have within a one-to-one. So, that's kind of one of the things that we introduced in going back to basics is expectations. And then, of course, having those constructive feedback conversations, having those, challenging conversations, not waiting until, like we said earlier, until it gets escalated. Nip it in the butt right now if you can. When you see something, call upon it now. And giving them that confidence and empowerment that they can do it. Because again, especially for accidental managers, you were peers, and now all of a sudden you managing the team. That dynamic also changes. That they would need support with.
Yeah, and that can be particularly challenging, right? Maybe there's an age thing. There's a we started at the same time thing, and all of a sudden you need to be perceived differently because you have a different role.
Yeah.
Love it. Interesting. And so there's this back to basics. Is it just for first-time managers, or does it also need to be applied to seasoned managers?
Yeah, I think, where like I said, quick story, Andy. So my first manager within my insurance company, when I was selling really well, I was doing stuff as such, where this back to basics used to come from. And when things wouldn't go so well, he'd always pull me up and kind of, because he had the figures, he would know how much I would be getting paid for in the next month or so. And he would pull me up and say, right, what were you doing so well when you were selling so well? And I'd say, I was doing, was it X, Y, and Z. He goes, so are you doing that now? No. So we get too confident. We get too complacent. And that's why he says, so go back to what you were doing. And hence why I go back to basics. So the same would apply. I think the same would apply. Maybe different context, a little bit of a different context, in how you, kind of bring it across back to them. But it would apply to everyone. It would apply to everyone. Because at the end of the day, those seniors, or middle managers or senior managers still are dealing with people. You're still dealing with people. Just different, like I said, different context, different aspect of the business. At a different level.
Yeah. So almost the length of time you've been a manager is almost irrelevant because you could still be a bad manager. Having been one for 10, 15, 20 years, if you haven't learned the basics.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. And this is sort of like the feedback we received when we initiated, the training over a year ago from those managers. The feedback was that, my manager should be here. My manager should be doing this.
Yeah.
So it's almost like, just taking that step back and
and it's convincing them to come on board, right? Because again, sometimes they'll be like, well, I've already been doing this for X number of years. Why do I need this foundational training? So
absolutely. That's the again, you'd have them sitting across the table with their arms folded and saying, what are you going to kind of train me on? But it's again about, yes, we had to start somewhere, and we had to kind of say, and that's what we said to them. We have to start somewhere. It's never been done before, but you as experienced managers, please share, we'd have lots of discussions, share that knowledge, share that good practice. So even if you walk away having a better network group, it's still something. It's still something they're taking away from it.
Yeah, for sure. And that's where your sales training comes into play as well, doesn't it?
That's it. Absolutely. Yeah.
Turning them to yes. That's great. Aglaia, just as we kind of close out here, I've got a couple more questions for you.
Okay.
What's your definition of leadership?
When I think of leadership, I think of inspiration. I think of motivation. Vision. Somebody who shares that vision, and you take your team along with you. But those are the kind of key things for me in terms of leadership. Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. And what advice would you give to leaders who are maybe not seeing themselves as one, or don't have the title or even the experience to go with it?
I think, self-awareness is key for me, being self-aware. And I think that comes back to, that leader needs to be self-aware. So invest in yourself, know what it is you want to do. If you do want to take that next step, there must be something happening for you that, you would, if you're unhappy in your role, or thinking if that's my next step. So have some sort of, whether it's coaching or have some sort of, psychometric analysis done on yourself. But I would say invest in yourself, go out and go do a training, whether it's outside the organization or within the organization. Learn about yourself, because then that'll help you then realize what your next steps are. But yeah, have that self-awareness, I think, is so key, Andy.
Yeah, 100% agree. Aglaia, that was fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing your own background, how you started, what you've learned along the way, and the values that you've attained and really used as your compass to guide you in what you do. Do you have any other final comments? Anything else you want to say right now? What's the takeaway?
Just go for it. It's invest in yourself and just adapt to the situation, and be open to ideas, and be open to ways of working differently.
I hear that. Yeah, that's what I've taken. Just that self-awareness and adaptability is so key. Yeah. If you do those things, you'll go far.
Absolutely. Great. Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Aglaia. It's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show.
No, thank you, Andy. Thank you for the opportunity. Yeah. Take care. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks for listening to The Instant Leader. If this episode helped, please follow the show and leave a quick review. It really helps others find us. For practical resources and to join the community, head to theinstantleader.com. I'm Andy Lee. See you next time.